But we start at the U.S. Supreme Court, where President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship in the United States meets the test of questions from justices on the high court. So at issue today, is President Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship constitutional? President Trump made history, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to be present for those oral arguments at the U.S. Supreme Court. You see his vehicle right there. Now, he's back at the White House as of this hour, but he attacked the court ahead of today's hearing. He criticized its ruling against his tariff policies. He also says his birthright executive order would stop what he calls the sale of U.S. citizenship around the world. Ultimately, the fate of that order rests with those justices. So here's some of what the attorney arguing against the president had to say after court. Listen.
I come out of the court today with the thought of my parents and so many of our parents and ancestors who came to this country seeking refuge, seeking new opportunities, and who relied on the rule that we've had in this country for 150 years, that everyone born here is a United States citizen, all alike. And I am confident that the court is going to turn back this president's effort to radically rewrite our 14th Amendment rule of birthright citizenship.
So let's talk to somebody who keeps me grounded and smart. CBS News chief legal correspondent Jiang Crawford joining us outside the Supreme Court. Okay, so you were there. You heard those oral arguments. First, take us through what you heard in a general sense, Jen.
Well, in the most general sense, Reed, I think we can all pretty much safely say that President Trump is going to lose another case in the Supreme Court. You mentioned he lost the tariffs case. He's not going to win this case either. These justices, through their questions, through their demeanor, they clearly indicated today that they do not believe that President Trump can redefine what it means to be a citizen in this country by the sign of a pen with an executive order. That long-held understanding that if you're born on U.S. soil, you're a U.S. citizen. They do not believe that President Trump can just come in and say, unless, of course, your parents are here illegally. The questions were pretty clear from the get-go. The Chief Justice, starting right off the bat, expressing pretty sharp skepticism when Trump's lawyer got up to make the case on his behalf. Of course, as you said, the president was there in that courtroom. I mean, he came in about 10 minutes till 10. Took his seat in the very front row of the public section. No special seat for the president. And that's where cabinet officials typically sit. And he stayed throughout the first half of the argument, heard his attorney, the Solicitor General, arguing on his behalf. And then I'd say about 7 minutes after that, he very quietly got up and left. And there was absolutely no change in the justices and their demeanor and their questions. You would have no idea the president was in that courtroom today from the beginning till when he left, till after the argument. You have no idea if we hadn't got a heads up about it. And so we, of course, were watching to see when he came in the courtroom.
So when is the decision expected to be announced, Jen?
Well, you know, on these big cases, and this one's argued pretty late in the term. I mean, it's, believe it or not, April, which I can't, spring already. So this case I would not expect to get before the very end of June. Those cases, these big, weighty constitutional questions that sometimes divide the justices, take longer for them to write, and already we're kind of toward the end anyway. So the justices like to wrap up all their opinions, and they've got some big ones this term, Reed. They like to wrap those up by the end of June. That's when their session typically ends. I would expect this one they'll be able to do pretty quickly. I would think that this is going to be a case, again, that the Supreme Court is not going to be sharply divided on. I would guess maybe one or two justices may think Trump has a pretty good argument, but it's likely, I would expect, 7-1, 7-2, 8-1. But we'll see when that opinion comes out which way they go.
Jen Crawford calling the courts, and also love how you call basketball. Big fan. Thank you so much, friend.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you. President Trump back at the White House now after listening to his Solicitor General make those arguments to keep that executive order in place. And CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us live. Weijia, the president left that Supreme Court after the government wrapped up their arguments. Why was it important for him to be right there in person in that public section that Jan just mentioned?
Well, that's the only section for the president. There isn't a determined place for any president because he is the first one sitting, at least, who has ever attended oral arguments. And that's for a very specific reason, Reed, because his predecessors wanted to make sure that there was a clear distance between the branches of government. They didn't want to appear as if they were trying to influence any case, but of course this president is very different. He has made it very well known that he believes, especially the conservative justices who he nominated, ought to be following his agenda. And so he had no problems about going there and listening to these arguments, which really shows how important this case is to President Trump. There have been other massive cases. In fact, we just got a ruling on the tariffs case, and that is the heart of his entire economic policy. He didn't even go listen to those arguments. So this should tell you how much he cares about this issue. In fact, as soon as he came to office this term on day one, he signed that executive order to end birthright citizenship. But as Jiang just laid out, it doesn't appear that he's going to win this battle. Of course, it's something we expect he will continue to talk about, as he has done since he came here to the White House.
Well, and he's not only making headlines for that Supreme Court appearance and then his follow-up post on Truth Social, but he'll also make headlines later today when he addresses the American people regarding the war in Iran. What do you expect to hear from the president on that?
Well, we've been talking to White House officials here who say that he's really going to give an operational update on the war in Iran and the progress so far of what the U.S. military has accomplished there. And he's going to highlight all of the things that have been done to achieve his stated goals for this operation, which of course include completely destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, along with its Navy, ensuring their terrorist proxies no longer destabilize the region, and also destroy its deadly ballistic missiles. But Reed, we shouldn't expect any huge announcements in terms of troops on the ground, as one example. I'm not expecting the president to declare victory. This really is an opportunity for him to message to the American people what the military has done so far, why they are still there, but also to reiterate when this will end, because that is the question that many Americans continue to ask. So I think the president wants to make his case, especially as, polling consistently shows that most Americans do not want to be in this war, not to mention another set of numbers, which is gas prices, which I know that you've been reporting on.
Right.
But as this war continues, it's taking a toll on the global oil industry, and that's hurting people here at home at the gas pumps.
President Trump to address the nation tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. Weijia, Jiang, thank you so much. It's going to be a very long day for our entire CBS News White House team. We appreciate your service to our viewers.